All right, so today we're going to look at the Boston Massacre. We're going to see who actually provoked it. We're going to decide if the British soldiers were the ones that were the aggressors or the colonists. So I'm giving you the note card out here. Okay, then your bell ringer is going to go on the blank side. All right, and the exit slip is going to be the one on the back. But each of you guys just answer the questions on the board, the first three about the picture on the board. And then when you're done, you're going to come up to me and I'm going to stamp it. Yes. Stamp it like the stamp that. Yeah, write your names on it, and then the first three questions up there, okay? So summarize the events in the picture. Who seems to be the aggressor? What event is occurring? And then when you're done, come up to me and I'll stamp it.
It's upside down.
You want another stamp?
Yeah.
After the class.
Loompa, loompa. You cut hers off.
But we're doing it wrong.
Mallory, switch your hands.
I'll come stamp you.
I don't know.
Okay.
I appreciate this I'll give you my
All right, everybody get a stamp? Okay, hang on to those, and then the back of that is going to be your exit slip, okay?
I want to grab my pin.
All right, let's go over these. So question one, what's happening in this picture?
Shooting. Violence.
Okay, so the British soldiers are firing, so they're in the line, the sentry or the troops. Public safety's chasing you. Who we got?
Violence.
Okay, so there's violence. Who seems to be the aggressor?
British.
The British, right?
The British just started coming.
So yeah, so you see they're kind of in a line, like it's ordered, right? They're in a line, like it was planned. And then you have this guy, Captain Preston, in the back, and he's kind of has his sword raised like he's yelling fire, okay? So this is a depiction of the Boston Massacre. We're going to see another depiction right after this one that gives a different point of view from it, okay? And then what event is this? Boston Massacre, right? So the person who created this is Paul Revere, right? Does anybody know who Paul Revere is?
Yes,
British are coming, right? Yeah, so he wrote that. He had that famous night ride. Okay? He was also an engraver, okay? And he engraved this photo. All right. So after the Boston Massacre, he has this. He makes this engraving, and he depicts the picture that the British are the ones that are aggressing. He makes these guys look very innocent. There's even a dog in the picture. Right? Yeah, woof woof. So you have here where these guys look super innocent and are getting killed. Was it truly a massacre? There was, no.
Only was it 3 or 4 people died.
So 4 people died instantly, and then a couple died later, and then the Irishman died about a month later. So it was about like 6 or 7. Yeah. So really, it's not a massacre, right? But that's Paul Revere was using propaganda to wage a riot or wage popularity for the colonists against the British. So he depicted this picture where these guys, the redcoats, are the ones, the aggressors. All right, so you can imagine in 1700s, if you're a colonial from Virginia, and the only thing that you get to see from the Boston Massacre, right, is this. Right, there is no Twitter, there's no IG, so you can't get instant updates like on ESPN or instant score update, right? So you're gonna hear maybe 5 days later, a week later, 2 weeks later, there's a bloody massacre in Boston. And the only thing you're gonna see about it is this. All right, so that's the only thing that you can base your story upon, and then maybe word of mouth.
I bet that story got switched up a lot.
Yes, exactly. There's nothing to fact check. Okay, so I'm going to show you another image. All right, so the same event, Boston Massacre. So look at this for a little bit.
Now it looks like there. It looks like now. Hey, yeah. Perfect. Have you all? No one's ever done that. I don't know what to do now.
Okay, so let's look at this. Who seems to be the aggressors now?
The colonists.
The colonists, right? So we got the redcoats here, these guys, and look at this dude. He's got a club, right? And he's like attacking him. He grabbed the dude's bayonet and musket, and is like trying to hit him over the head. There's even snowballs getting thrown, like little snowballs. You have men already down on the ground, which that looks like a colonist. But yeah, so it's a completely different depiction of the same event that's going on. It's completely different. This in Paul Revere's, nobody in the colonies or the colonists are armed. You have here this dude's aggressing, being the aggressor towards the colonists or towards the redcoat. So yeah, so the Boston Massacre was on March 5th, 1770. So 5 years before the Revolution even starts. Okay. It was a brawl that occurred between British soldiers stationed at a tax office located in Boston, Massachusetts, and colonists. During this time, tensions between the British soldiers and patriot colonists were rising. Colonists yelled insults at the British guards. Chaos broke out, and the confusion eventually led to troops discharging their muskets. 4 civilians were killed at scene, and then 2 laters died after the incident. So one the next day, he was a 17-year-old boy, and then a 30-year-old Irishman like 2 weeks later. Okay, so looking at these 2 depictions, there's really 2 different things. Okay, so from here it looks like a self-defense is coming on. All right, yeah. So the colonists are British are self-defending against the colonists. From Paul Revere's point of view, it looks like murder. Like it's staged and well planned against these people. Okay? So today we're going to have a trial to figure out if the colonists were actually provoking the British and the British had self-defense against the colonists, or if it was really murder. So we're going to look at 8 different testimonies and then watch a video from HBO. They actually did the trial by John Adams, who was actually one of our presidents. He was the attorney that defended the British soldier and the captain. Okay. So I need 8 volunteers to come up to the witness stand and read. Yeah. Okay. Who wants it?
Got this
Hey,
work.
yeah, give me an easy.
Okay, here, I'll do it.
Give me one.
Yeah, I'll do it. I love how y'all told me. Y'all like, oh yeah, she can do it. I held my hand out.
So what?
Are you doing it?
Mr. Star, please.
Here, give me one, give me an easy.
Why
What
can't you
says
give
that?
me a bigger one?
Mr. Dog.
I'll give you a bigger one.
Mr. Dog, please. Mr. Dog, please.
Mr. Dog. Where's John?
Mr. Dog, come on. Jeez.
All right, last one. Who wants it? Ronan.
Yeah, bro.
The Orcas.
B word.
All right. Yes. So I did have to black out some words. So just say darn it. All right. Or dang it. Yeah.
Rats.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it now.
Okay. So who wants to? I need a judge too.
I can't be no judge.
Very little.
I can be a judge. Is there a paper you read off of?
You're gonna give me a true verdict. Here's your gavel.
Well, for those kind of words, I kind of want to do it now.
Okay, so I'm gonna set the stage of what truly are the, I guess, the opening statements of the trial, and then we're gonna have the testimonies by volunteer. Okay? Yeah, there's not a particular order. Okay. So on March 5th, 1770, a young apprentice named Edward called out to a British officer, Captain John Goldfinger, that he was late paying his barber's bill. Goldfinger had in fact settled this account that day, but did not reply to the boy. When Edward remained quite vocal in his complaints an hour later, the British sentry outside the customs house, Private Hugh White, called the boy over and clubbed him over the head. Garrick's companions yelled at the sentry, which sentry means the troops, okay? So like the 16 guys there. And a British sergeant chased them away. The apprentices returned with more locals and shouting insults at the sentry and throwing snowballs and litter, so like rocks and stuff. White sent a messenger to the main guard for reinforcements. The officer of the day, Preston, according to his account, dispatched a non-commissioned officer and 12 privates, all soldiers of the 29th Regiment of Foot, and he followed soon afterwards. The mob grew in size and continued harassing the officers, pelting with stones, sticks, and chunks of ice. A group of sailors came carrying large sticks of firewood and pushed the front of the crowd, directly confronting the soldiers. As bells rang in the surrounding steeples, the crowd of Bostonians grew larger and more threatening. In the midst of the commotion, a private was struck down by a piece of ice. He fired his musket and later admitted to one of the defense attorneys that someone had yelled fire. All the soldiers but one fired into the crowd. Their uneven burst hit 11 men. 4 died instantly, and then a 17-year-old boy died the next day, and a 30-year-old Irish immigrant died 2 weeks later. Yes, so the first, Crispus Attucks, he was the African Adams. Crispus Attucks. All right, so who wants to be the first? Yes.
Mine has 2 different
Yeah.
people on it. Is that supposed to be that way?
You are going to be Captain Preston, Thomas Preston. So you have to be the last person to speak. That's it. Nope. So who's ready to be give our testimony?
You go. I think I'm ready, guys.
All right, let's do it, Anne Marie.
Y'all like stand up, sit.
Just come to the witness stand. Yeah.
What you just said at the table.
She's actually having sex.
Yes.
Yes.
I choose not to do that.
All right, so listen to Anna Marie's story, all right? Her testimony. Yeah.
The lieutenant governor asked Captain Preston, "Did you know you had no power to fire upon the inhabitants or any number of people collected together unless you had a civil officer to give order?" The captain replied, "I was obligated to save my century."
Yep, so to save his century. So Captain Preston is Alexis, and he's the guy in the back that's going like this, okay? He said that he had to fire to save his century, okay? You can, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was Isaac.
Okay, so she was Isaac. All right. Thank you, Anna Marie. Or Isaac. All right. Who's up? Okay.
She always.
I'm William Sawyer. The people kept harassing, daring him to fire, threw snowballs, and I think they hit him as soon as the snowballs were thrown. A club and a soldier fired. I heard the club strike upon the gun, and the corner man next to the lane said, "Fire immediately," and immediately fired. This was the first gun. As soon as he had fired, he said, "Thank you, fire." I'm so sure that I thought that he spoke. That next gun fired, and so they fired pretty quick.
Yeah. So it was a depiction that pretty much the guy misfired, right? And they started just following along. They thought they heard somebody yell fire. So who's up next? Ronan?
At home, I heard the bells of fire, went out, came to the townhouse. The people told me there was going to be a rumpus with the soldiers. Went to the customs house, saw Captain Preston there with the soldiers. Asked him if they were loaded. He said yes. If with ball, he said nothing. I saw the people throw snowballs at the soldiers, and I saw a stick about 3 feet long striking a soldier upon the leg.
Okay, yeah.
He
Good.
sailed and sallied and then fired. Little time took second, then the others, I fast, others, fast, another. 1 or 2 snowballs hit the soldier. The stick struck before firing. I know not whether he sallied on account of the stick or stepped back to make ready. I did not hear any orders given by the captain to fire. I stood so near him, I think I must have heard him if he had given an order to fire. Before the first firing, I never knew Captain Preston before. I can't say whether he had a surtout on. He was dressed in red. I know him to be the man I took to be the officer. The man that fired stood next to the exchange lane. I saw none of the people press upon the soldiers before the first gun fired. I did after them. I aimed a blow at him myself and did not strike him. I am sure the captain stood before the men when the first gun fired. I had no apprehension. The captain did not give order to fire when the first gun was fired. I thought it was the first gun. I thought the first gun, the captain did not order the men to fire, but I do not certainly know. I heard word fire several times, but not whether it came from the captain, the soldiers, or the people. 2 people struck at the soldiers at the first gun. I don't know if they hit them. There were about 100 people in the street. The muzzles of the guns were behind them. After the first gun, the captain went quite to the left and I to the right.
I see. So what did Ronan say was thrown at the British? Snowballs. And then did he say that he heard Captain Preston say? He didn't hear it. Okay, so he didn't hear Captain Preston say fire. All right, who's up next?
told there was no fire but something better. There was going to be a fight. Some had buckets and bags and some clubs. I went to the west end of the townhouse where there were a number of people. I saw some soldiers coming out of the guardhouse with their guns and running down after another to the custom house. Some of the people said, let's attack the main guard or the sentinel who has gone to the King Street. Some said, for God's sake, don't let us touch the main guard. We're calling them lobsters, daring them to fire. One saying, dang you, why don't you just fire? I saw Captain Preston out from behind one of the soldiers. In the front at the right, he spoke to some people. The captain one stood between the soldiers and gutter, about 2 yards from the gutter. And I saw 2 or 3 strike with sticks on the guns. I was going off to the west A of the soldiers and heard the guns fire and saw the dead carried off. Soon after the guard drums beat to ears, the people, while striking on guns one, cried fire, dang me fire. I have heard no orders given to fire, only the people in general cried fire.
So that's the big thing. What did he didn't hear Captain Preston say fire, right? Good. Next.
I'm James Little. I saw one soldier knocked down. His gun fell from him. I saw many sticks and pieces of sticks, and I thrown at the soldiers. The soldier who was knocked down took up his gun and fired directly. Soon after the gun, I saw a gentleman behind the soldiers in velvet blue and black flesh trimmed with gold. He put his hand towards their backs. Whether he touched them, I don't know. And said, by God, I'll stand with you while I'm drawn of blood. And then set fire, and 2 went off, and the rest to 7 or 8. The captain, after seemed shocked, and looked upon the soldiers. I am very certain he did not give the word fire.
Good. So I'm very certain I did not hear the word fire.
When I came into King Street about 9 o'clock, I saw the soldiers running into the
Sentinel.
Sentinel. I asked one if he was loaded, and he said yes. I asked him if he would fire. He said yes by the eternal God, and pushed his bayonet at me. After firing, the captain came before the soldiers and put up their guns with his arm and said, stop firing, don't fire no more, or don't fire again. I heard the word fire and took it, and am certain that it came from behind the soldiers. I saw a man passing quickly by, who I took to be an officer. Firing was a little time after. I saw some persons fall before the firing. I saw sticks thrown at the soldiers. The word fire I took to be a word of command. I had in my hand a Highland broad sword, which I brought from home. Upon my coming out, I was told it was a wrangle between soldiers and people. Upon that, I went back and got my sword. I never used to go out with a weapon. I had not my sword drawn till after the soldier pushed his bayonet at me. I should have cut his head off if he had stepped out of his range to attack me again. At the first time, the people were chiefly in Royal Exchange lines, there being about 50 in the street. After the firing, I went up to the soldiers and told them I wanted to see some faces that I might swear to them another way. In a melancholy tone said, perhaps, sir, you may. Benjamin verdict.
So what side would Benjamin probably be on? The colonists or the redcoats? Colonists. So good, yeah.
John Holt. I saw the officer after the firing and spoke to the soldiers and told them it was cowardly action to kill men at the end of the day. And they were pushing at the people who seemed to be trying to come into the street. The captain came up and stamped and said, "They the flags fire again and let them take consequences." I was within 4 feet of him. He had no sword short out, but a red coat with a rose on his shoulder. The people were whirling at the head of Royal Exchange Lane. The soldiers were pushing and striking with the guns. I saw the people's arms moving, but no sticks.
So he's he's on the, which side is he on? Colonist. He's pretty much lying. He said he didn't see any sticks. He just saw the arms moving. Okay. So yeah. So there's different, you're seeing different point of views, and they're all kind of cloudy. Some of them are saying that Captain Preston said fire. Some are saying he didn't. Some are saying that they threw snowballs. Some say they don't even have sticks or clubs. So let's hear it from Captain Preston himself or herself. I love it.
Hail, I'm Thomas Preston. At about 9, some of the guards informed me that people were gathering to attack the troops. On my way there, I heard the crowd threaten the troops. About 100 people went towards the custom house where the king's money is kept. They immediately surrounded the soldier there and threatened him. I was told that they were going to carry the soldier off and probably murder him. I immediately sent an officer and 12 men to protect both the soldier and the king's money. I followed them to prevent, if possible, any problems. I feared that the officer and the soldiers might be provoked by the insults of the rioters. I told the troops to go out without loading their weapons, and I never gave them orders to load them. The mob still increased, striking their clubs together and calling out, "Come on, you rascals, you bloody backs, you lobster scoundrels, fire if you dare." At this time, I was between the soldiers and the mob, trying to persuade them to leave peacefully. Someone asked me if I was going to order the men to fire. I answered no, saying that I was in front of the guns and would be shot if they fired. While I was speaking, one of the soldiers was hit with a stick. Who was hit with a stick, stepped a little to one side, and instantly fired. When I turned to ask him why he fired without orders, I was struck with a club on my arm. The soldiers were attacked by a great number of heavy clubs and snowballs were thrown at them. All our lives were in danger. At the same time, someone from behind called out, "Dang your bloods, why don't you fire?" Instantly, 3 or 4 of the soldiers fired, and then 3 more fired with the same confusion. The mob then ran away, except 3 unhappy men who died instantly. When I asked the soldiers why they fired without orders, they said that they heard the word fire and thought it came from me. This might have been the case as many of the mob called out fire, but I told the men that I gave no such order. My words were, "Don't fire, stop your firing."
Good, nice. Do you think Captain Preston has a bias?
Yes.
Right? What would his bias be? Oh, sorry.
British.
So he's the British. Okay, what's his position might give him a bias too?
Because he's the head of
Him being the leader, right? The head. Yeah, so it's like you don't want to be wrong, right? Even if he did say fire. So from his point of view, it seems like who's the aggressors? The colonists.
He was also in prison, so that's another bias.
Yeah, he was in prison at that time.
I was in prison.
Okay. So there's a big trial that goes on after this happens. Alright? So the government was determined to give the soldiers a fair trial so that there would be no grounds for retaliation from the British, and so that the moderates would not be alienated from the British or the Patriot cause. A problem was that no lawyers in the Boston area wanted to defend the soldiers, as they believed it would be a huge career mistake. A desperate request was sent to John Adams from Captain Preston himself, pleading for his work on the case. And Adams, who was already a leading patriot and a colonist, who was contemplating a run for public office, nevertheless agreed to help in the interest of ensuring a fair trial. So the HBO video that we're about to watch gives a point of view within the trial. And so you'll hear a couple witnesses speak from the colonial side. All right.
Bluntz, he said, "You won't treat me this way." Then he told the soldiers, "I heard Captain Preston plain as day. Damn you, Bluntz," he said, "you won't treat me this way." Then he told the soldiers to fire.
And how would you describe the behavior of these young lads just before the soldiers fired?
Throwing snowballs.
Ah, snowballs. A terrifying prospect for armed soldiers. Snowballs.
Oh, they didn't like it, sir. Chilly on the skin and all.
Mr. Adams?
Mr. Governor, when When you arrived in the square, you had ample opportunity to observe the crowd, yeah?
I did, sir.
And were any of them carrying anything apart from snowballs?
Well, let me see. I don't recall, sir.
Were any of these men carrying clubs?
They were, sir.
Indeed. A lawful assembly. Not a riot, a lawful assembly in which people were carrying the clubs. To make certain nothing unlawful occurred, perhaps.
Men are rope makers, sir. As any true Boston man would know, the clubs they were carrying are for beating out rope.
For beating out rope, indeed. But could they not also be used for beating out men's brains?
Anyone suggest there was is lying!
Mr. Gunner, where exactly were you standing when you say you heard the officer and the dog captain Preston give the order to fire?
Close enough to have touched him, sir.
And where was he standing?
He stood behind his men, sir.
I see. Behind his men. I would ask the jury to take note of it.
So why is it such a big thing that John Adams got that dude to say that Preston was behind his men? He can touch him, right? But if he's behind his men, there's no way that he would be able to touch him. So there might be a cause there that he wouldn't be able to hear firing. Okay, just want to point that out.
Mr. Holmes, would you please describe the events you witnessed on the night of March the 5th?
I saw some boys near the sentry at the custom house door.
And what were they doing, these boys?
Making a noise.
Shouting. At the sentry.
I suppose.
Were they doing anything else? What were they doing?
Throwing ice, sir, and oyster shells.
And did this harassment continue with the arrival of Captain Preston and his men?
Yes, indeed.
Did you yourself pick up everything you could find and throw it?
Yes, sir.
How many people were there about, Mr. Holmes?
Near 200 boys and men before it was over.
200 boys and men, good heaven. And as you said, they were all throwing ice, oyster shells. Were they throwing anything else? Did they throw their clubs, Mr. Holmes? As you say, this crowd, they were making great hullabaloo, huh?
Yes.
They were shouting.
Yes.
What were they shouting to the soldiers?
Just before the soldiers started shooting.
Yes.
I heard the people say,
What did you hear them say? Please, Mr. Holmes. What did you hear them say?
"Fire! Damn you! Fire!
Fire! Fire! Fire, damn you! Would you take this to be the cry of fire or bidding these soldiers to fire?
No, they make for the soldiers to shoot, sir.
You say that this crowd actually dared the soldiers to fire.
But they did. God help me, they did.
Thank you, sir.
Why'd you say poor guy?
He was about to get beat up.
He was about to get beat up, right? Yeah, they were pressuring him. Right. They were pressuring him not to tell the truth. Make matters worse, he's African American. Okay, so he's black, so he's already hated. And then you have all those colonists, like in the first scene, the dude from the top balcony says, if anybody says it was a riot or a liar, okay? And then now you have a witness that's going to tell the truth and is going to give a piece of evidence that could really put the colonists under scrutiny. And so from there, with the back side of your bell ringer, all right, you're going to put exit slip, and you're going to decide a verdict. Okay, are you going to say that the British were self-defending themselves against the colonists, or that they murdered the colonists? Okay, did they defend themselves, or did they murder? And then under that, you are going to answer the question, who do you feel is responsible for the Boston Massacre? The colonists or the British troops? So self-defense, or murder. Okay, go ahead. And then who do you feel is responsible for the Boston Massacre? Okay, so once you're done, I'll take those up. I'll give you a stamp. I'll put it over here. No, not the exit slip. When you're done, I'll take it. Just throw them at me. Hunter? Will you, yeah, we'll play this one.
I'm never gonna stamp it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you one for show. Thank you. Thank you. We'll do that. You got it? Yep. Take it. Anybody else? Okay, we're good. All right, Hunter's gonna tally up for us. Chad, you got one? Okay.
Say no?
So self-defense.
No. I don't know.
We got one for murder. Murder. Self-defense. 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 Murder. self-defense, self-defense, murder, self-defense, 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 self-defense,
I hope one day you find
self-defense, murder, self-defense, 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 and self-defense. So definitely, our verdict as a class, as a jury, is self-defense, okay? So my man Hunter, the judge, is going to give us the true verdict of what happened in real life. All right? Thank you.
Tried on his own, Preston was acquitted after the jury was not convinced that he had ordered the troops to fire. In the trial of the soldiers, Adams argued that if the soldiers were endangered by the mob, they had the legal right to fight back, and so were innocent. If they were provoked but not endangered, he argued they were most guilty of manslaughter. The jury agreed with Adams and acquitted 6 of the soldiers. 2 of the soldiers were found guilty of murder because there was overwhelming evidence that they fired directly into the crowd. However, John Adams used a loophole in British common law, proving the judge that they had to having to read them from the Bible of their crime was reduced to manslaughter. 2 privates were found guilty of manslaughter and punished by branding their thumbs. The jury's decision suggests that they believed the soldiers had felt threatened by the crowd.
All right. So, what was the true verdict?
Murder.
No, not murder. 2 people did get voted murder. Basically self-defense, okay? So in the trial, so Preston was acquitted. So you're safe. Because the jury was not convinced that he had ordered the troops to fire. In the trial of the soldiers, Adam argued that if the soldiers were endangered by the mob, they had legal right to fight back, okay? So they had legal right to self-defend. Self-defend against snowballs. But there was rocks and clubs too, James. Okay? And so the soldiers were innocent. If they were provoked but not endangered, he argued that they were most guilty of manslaughter. So if it was just snowballs, they were most guilty of manslaughter. Okay? The jury agreed that with Adams and acquitted the 6 soldiers. 2 of the soldiers that were found guilty of murder because there was overwhelming evidence that they fired directly into the crowd. However, this is something really interesting. John Adams used a loophole in British common law by providing to the judge that if they could read, by having them read from the Bible, their crime was reduced to manslaughter. So the 2 people that were, given murder as their verdict, if they were able to read by the Bible, or read the Bible, they were put to manslaughter. Yeah. And then the other 6 that were given are guilty of manslaughter were punished by branding of the thumb. So does anybody know what branding is?
So hot, take some really hot, and then you
Right. So you'll people brand their cattle. Slaves were branded. So they got branded on their thumbs. All right. And we looked this up. Me and K-Rob looked this up first period, I think. They did that because if they were ever given a verdict of manslaughter again, they would look at their thumbs. If they had brands, they wouldn't be able to have manslaughter. Okay. So they would just be guilty of murder. So yeah, just like cruel and unusual, right? So the jury's decision suggests that they believe the soldiers have been threatened by the crowd. So as a class, we got it right. So good job, guys.
I didn't get it right.
I know. That's okay.
Not shocking.
I say
There is points of view that it is murder, okay? So yeah. So the Boston Massacre is one of the several events that turned colonial sentiment against British rule. Each of these events followed a pattern of British asserting its control and the colonists chafing under the increased regulation. Events such as the Tea Act and the ensuing of the Boston Tea Party were examples of the crumbling relationship between Britain and the colonies. While it took 5 years from the massacre to outright revolution, this incident foreshadowed the violent rebellion to come. So we're going to get into some battles, next week about the revolution. So yeah, so that's something else to point out. This isn't 1770. The revolution doesn't truly kick off until 1775. So yeah. Won't you guys exit slips?
I heard they got separated.
They did. Yeah, you weren't here. Yeah, I was given 6 period to get like all the suckers. We gave out at least 20. Thank you for anybody who gave the testimony. Since there any testimonies out, I'll take those out. Anybody wants to play with stamps? Still put them everywhere.
Go to me, I catch.
Yeah.
We could be straight on 3rd Middle Street.
Here, so excited.
If you guys want to watch another courtroom, I guess there's more on YouTube. I can play the second part of the courtroom.
I wish to point out that my next witness does not appear in support of either party. The court calls Richard Palms. Richard Palms to come forth and be heard.
Which one do you want? That's state court.
Richard Palms!
Guys, don't forget tomorrow some people need to make a test. So tower hour. A or B, either one. I'll be here for both.